May 9th, 2022. I'm sitting here. I'm watching Channel 12 News. There's some guy from New York City. I think he calls himself the Chancellor of the New York City school system. Again, what a chancellor is, I don't know, but I'll tell you, he's not a German chancellor. He's not like a important circus elsewhere that I'm being withheld from. He's what's this American issue in a modern Lincoln dilemma of viens voir, venez ici. It's not palatable. Although they are telling on themselves very effectively all of a sudden. After this New York City chancellor who's had a pathway to success to get to wherever he was, while I did not enjoy the same pursuit of happiness or even the ability to pursue it if I wanted to in the same area under the same whatever. This man says some words that I've never even been exposed to, things that they've done in the city, things they've fought for, things they've won. I don't know how this keeps perpetuating forward. I mean, I thought that when they marched on the Capitol to the savior of democracy in the nation, speaking about somebody else's country's dream, that was an act of war and a declaration and should have been immediately rectified and cleaned off of the landscape and the Capitol steps. But clearly, nobody took that godly advice from, like, Zeus himself. They decided to go with something in the Ares or Mars concept. At the wrong decor and the wrong decorations. So now I'm watching their summation and like their results of putting in all this suggestive behavior without correction of any kind. And it then goes into apparently now London, England's mayor, another unpalatable choice. And my mayor, who I like a whole lot more, are having a competition in Times Square with some British under-theme. And they're announcing that today. It's some tourist or leisure or whatever they're doing to drum up tourism in New York City. So they actually show the face of the mayor of London, which never gets any airtime in New York. And then there was a piece this morning on See the BS before the 12 o'clock news, where they go to Virginia and they show this girl under this same flag system who also got educated and a better pathway to success, or at least a pathway to success, as I did not, who now they're entrusting in formulating an education plan and disseminating it to other Virginian people. But she's from India. Where does help come from? Like, is it the tooth fairy I have to ask for? The Easter bunny? I'm just curious. It gets a little confusing. Like, I know, like, they say there's a god of war. Like, who do you call out to? So here's the whatever the children are up to in this area that I'm trying to stay away from, but it is like, I mean, when does help arrive? What exactly led to the shooting? But here's what we know so far. The shooting happened. Like, if this is part of a war that's been an ongoing thing that they don't keep announcing and keeps getting worse and more dangerous. I'm just curious, are these battle plans, like, can the battalion and the brigade, like in the cavalry, I don't know which one goes to who, but can they like rearrange that schedule, since I mean I have no access to it, in order to get some of these battles, like, I don't know. I mean, is so much time going on in just wasting and making things worse, in souring all of the landscape?
New York City leaders continue to push to renew mayoral control of public schools.
I remember the system and the way it was. And it was a system that was wrought with political corruption. It is the reason why we went.
Wait a minute. It's still functioning in political corruption. It's in a cookie at the moment. There's a coup, and it's here. It's got a face. It's got names. They're in action. Where is executive or director in order to rectify this dream state that they're all functioning in, when it's really clearly occluding the pursuit of happiness from someone like myself and my children? In fact, it's caused major disruption at like galactic level.
Accountability.
All schools chancellor and Mayor Adams gathered with union leaders in front of City Hall today. They highlighted what they call the success linked to mayoral accountability, including higher graduation rates and fair school funding. The mayor wants to retain control of schools for another 4 years. Lawmakers in Albany are expected to take up the issue before the legislative session ends in June.
New at noon, London has taken over time.
So let's go to India for a moment, since these three seem to be linked somehow. Since we have a diaper and a sleeping disorder study somewhere.
Our series Changing the Game profiles extraordinary.
Changing the game. They're even admitting that they're trying to change the game. They're trying to change the American dream. They're trying to change the American game. And who is allowing them to do this in this system that they're breaking and continuously breaking and growing more dangerous?
Women who are making it.
They're taking away every freedom and the pathways to success. And where are people standing up and disallowing this from going on?
A difference now and for future generations. This morning, we're introducing you to a Virginia teenager bringing new attention to women who are often left out of the history books. The high schooler developed her own curriculum for elementary and middle school students to recognize the accomplishments of women with an emphasis on women of color. Nicole shows us how she did it.
Prasida Padmanabhan is leading a modern-day crusade to rewrite the history.
A modern day crusade. The Guerrera war words are everywhere. Why are they allowed to crusade in North America? Who gave them that permission? Did anybody check with Ares, God Ares, or God Mars? Because I'm pretty sure this is against some ROE somewhere. The Mer children are having trouble.
History books.
So some of these are really easy, some of them are not.
In one of the country's largest school districts.
They're living in the state of Virginia. How did they make landfall? They come from India. That means it's an airplane or it's a boat, but it's a really long, planned entry from far, far away. Who within America's borders is allowing this? And it's entering via the pathway of Virginia, the state of Virginia. How is that possible?
17-year-old is creating an entire course of study for elementary and middle school students in Fairfax County, Virginia.
She's in Fairfax County creating an Indian and brown education system to promote. How can I be the only one that sees a problem with this?
What motivated you to develop this curriculum?
Honestly, I think it was just my own experience with the lack of education around women's history. I felt like, especially women of color, were often just, their stories would go untold.
There is a lack of history because the motivation department is handling fundamentally other broken areas and seems to have trouble with all this new influx of people with all this broken morale and morality and all of this, like, where's the cast? Where are the children? Where do they stand? Where's the directorship?
I am a first-generation Indian, and my mom's an Indian immigrant, and so I think
She's first-generation Indian, but she's in America designing education systems. On whose accord? Who's allowing this? How do you prevent this from being allowed and from going into motion and action?
I think growing up hearing her stories has always been something that I've taken and wanted to learn more about and always been inspired.
I don't. I really don't. I don't want to be inspired by your mother. I have other things going on. The whole world is going to shit and breaking. And there's some real serious stuff that needs to be taken, like, into account. Because I also saw this exact same Indian story, where, I'm sorry, they called themselves Guyanan, but looked like family members of these people. And they were wearing Long Island Jewish white coats. They are called nurses in the New York area. But they're using Jewish money for Jewish blood brotherhood healthcare work. They're putting them on, entering a building that has Jewish on the building, and someone is allowing the Jewish to fund money to these Guyanan people, and they're now employed within this Jewish umbrella within the New York, and they're not phlebotomically, like, bioengineered approved to handle body fluids of a community for which the dollars built the institution of healthcare for that particular purpose. So that gets really confusing. And why is that being allowed? In fact, why is that being, like, expected to be the new norm? Here's another sign of Ragnarok from Hela, as if the whole world is ending dangerously. Because it doesn't get better from here without complete, like, there's got this much discourse. I mean, the correction. I don't know why anybody waits for corrections.
Still here on the scene, trying to piece together.
Here's Mayor Adams hosting a visitor mayor and now some spectacle on the one tube. So at least I know who's involved in London through who's involved in my own city in whatever.
New at noon, London has taken over Times Square as part of the new tourism campaign. Mayor Adams and London's mayor have vowed to help each other learn and grow.
If you are a mayor that only stands on your block, you're not going to solve the problems of the globe. And I'm not going to do that to New York.
Our two cities are kindred souls.
Wow, kindred souls, is that so? Not quite sure. He doesn't look very London. I mean, he doesn't look like the Queen of England, who has something going on in London. I don't know where his people originated, but this has been an ongoing problem with the traveling, the education, the resettlement. In some, it was established. We knew who they were on some date and some legend somewhere. How the whole world went to shit hit the fan, I don't know what year that was.
And kindred spirits, so we share so much. We are arguably the only two truly global cities.
Mayor Sadiq Khan says the campaign.
Two global cities. Well, that will make it easier. Two anchors on which to rest someone's laurels.
Called London to Times Square Takeover is an effort to attract more international visitors to London. In response, Mayor Adams said the two cities are in a friendly competition over international tourists, climate change, and solving ongoing pandemic challenges.
Still ahead on Eyewitness News at noon, a last-minute decision today in the section.
It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It is Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and it is Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.